Firearms friends, this may look like an FG-42, but what we have on the table today is actually significantly rarer than even the FG-42 and is one of the headlining items in our August 21st through 23rd Premier Firearms auctions. It's going to have at least 60 NFA items in there. So if you are a military collector, a European arms collector, or of course a machine gun collector, have we got an auction for you, because this is the Swiss WF-51, and it was almost Switzerland's first step into adopting a select fire battle rifle. So, as we know, the Swiss are quite fond of their straight pull service rifles. I am also quite fond of their straight pull service rifles. They have a phenomenal trigger for a military arm, or for any arm that matter. They have a beautiful line, and of course they're dating back, to 1889, that Schmidt-Rubin design that just works. It's accurate, it's reliable, and has a proven record of performance. In fact, that performance may have been too good because the Swiss don't bother really adopting a semi-automatic rifle. Now, of course, there's an exception there. There's a brief flirtation with the Mondragon. I believe they purchased 100 of those as the Fliegergewehr 1917 for their airplane pilots during the Great War. But that aside, they don't adopt a semi-automatic rifle, but it's not for lack of trying. There's a lot of designs submitted, even intermediate cartridge designs in the 1920s, the 30s, the 40s, and you see this sort of competition between Waffenfabrik Bern and SIG, which of course we will see play out decades later. In fact, even during World War II, they didn't have substantial designs, and they ended up buying Suomis from Finland during World War II when Germany was getting them a little bit nervous. But it's after World War II. They kind of get their act together, and they're like, well, we're just going to give semi-automatic rifles a miss and move directly into select fire battle rifles. And the WF-51 is the first step, the first dipping of their toe into moving past straight pull bolt action rifles. And what a step it is, right? Their first step is, of course, influenced a lot by all the fantastic designs that are coming in pre, during, and post World War II, right? You have a lot of countries, shouldn't say a lot, but there are semi-automatics adopted before World War II, like the M1 Garand. You have several significant designs coming up during World War II, like the MP-44, the Sturmgewehr 44, and of course, post-World War II, you have things like the Automat Kalashnikov 47. And let's not forget, of course, the obviously referenced FG-42, which is obviously during World War II. So they have a lot of good inspiration to work with, and clearly the WF-51 takes many, many points from the FG-42. Let's take a look at it. We can look at some similarities and some differences between these two designs. Now, before we begin, we should say that the WF-51, WF does stand for Waffenfabrik 51, developed in 1951. It's important to notice Waffenfabrik, as we mentioned, is still battling SIG for these designs. So you see, they competed for designs throughout the 20th century. Why stop now when we're developing a select fire battle rifle? The similarities with the FG-42 are numerous. Let's go from head to tail. We can start off with the muzzle brake, inspired by a Type 2 FG-42 muzzle brake. Big flip-up front sight, little bayonet lug on the bottom. Here we have a midpoint bipod, which you'll see on the Type 1 FG-42s. The Type 2, move it towards the muzzle. And it's already funny because both those designs are in an early 51, but we also see them come up later with the ZFK 55, those Swiss sniper rifles. They're still using a very similar muzzle device and midpoint bipod. Handguard, from the shape of the grip itself, very FG-42 inspired, not like the Type 1, which sweeps back. Rear sight, barrel sight, almost taken directly from FG-42. We have our side mounting magazine. That'll take a 30-round magazine that curves ever so slightly forward. Buttstock shape, clearly inspired by that, as is the quick disassembly of that. It's just so nice that comes off, and it gives us a great sound when we put that back on, I should mention we have a matching serial number too back here on the very, very rear end of that receiver, and that's a great sound. Swiss craftsmanship, no surprise there. Even the fire control group is near identical to an FG42. Now let's talk about some of the differences that are apparent. And frankly, most of them are internal, because the first one is the cartridge. So obviously one of the problems with the FG42 is it's a full power battle cartridge, right? You have 8mm Mauser, and that gave a lot of problems for the FG42. There was some heat, but it was more just the sheer recoil, right, of a full power battle rifle round in a compact package. The Swiss learned from that. And so instead of using their full power 7.5x55 Swiss, they actually developed a cartridge for it, a 7.5x38 Swiss. What if you were using still German naming conventions, you could almost call a 7.5 Swiss Kurz, if you will, to lessen the recoil and also for the estimated ranges that they were anticipating fighting in. In true Swiss fashion, this is milled, not stamped. So very high quality, Swiss quality, but also very appropriate for a small run. You know, you're not going to set up all the machining for stamping for a small run, or maybe your first prototype in a design or the first design of a trial series. So different cartridge, and also we have a different mechanism. So we've gone away from the rotating bolt of the FG42. Here we have a tilting bolt. And of course, my favorite difference, the beer keg charging handle here on the right side. Classic Swiss firearm. And as a whole, it's a classic Swiss battle rifle. This is, as we mentioned, milled, so it's wonderfully overbuilt for what it needs to be. Beautiful in its design. You love sort of the Swiss take on the wood that happens here. There are key Swiss elements, and it's very, very high condition. There are other examples you will see in museums that you've seen previously auctioned. The condition of this is absolutely superior. It's a wonderfully pristine example. We have the matching numbers. We showed one on the left side by the fire control group. We also have matching serial numbers up here on the top of the receiver. Again, we mentioned on the back of the frame. And one last one in a bit of an unexpected spot. If we open that side magazine well, we will see a serial number even on the inside of that dust cover. So down to the smallest detail, extremely superior condition. Now, of those examples that you can compare it to, there's only 35 ever made, according to most sources, so very, very few. Here's one of the surviving examples. Here's one in amazing condition. Now, of course, this wasn't a great first step for Waffenfabrik Bern. There's other variations. In fact, there's 4 other rifles they make for the trial, which maybe in the grand scheme of things isn't so terrible. Look how many variations were made by Colt before the 1911 was adopted. But this is the 51. You skip 52 and you have 53, 54, 55, 56. All the other ones are chambered in 7.5 Swiss, the full powered round. So apparently the intermediate cartridge isn't what they were looking for, but it just makes this rifle all the more distinct, all the more unique. And of course, at the end of the trials, SIG does come through on top over Waffenfabrik Bern. You have the Stgw, which is eventually adopted as the Sturmgewehr 57, which of course then gives birth to the whole SIG 510 series of rifles that we're all a little more familiar with. So as it stands, you know, left behind in the trials, but what a fascinating and well-made Swiss design from an absolutely respected Swiss maker, and it's in fine condition, and you'll rarely see one. I haven't seen one in 13 years. I wouldn't be surprised if it's another 13 to 20 before I see another one, let alone one that looks this good. As we mentioned, it's one of the highlights in our August 21st through 23rd Premier Firearms Auction. If you love Class 3s, again, over 60 that are going to be there. If you love military arms from home or abroad, especially the European arms, untold hundreds that'll be available. So hop online, check out some more photos. You can join us for a preview day on August 20th there in Bedford, Texas. We're open to the public. If you can't join us, you can place all your bids online. Until next time, keep your powder dry.